Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Peralta Community College Board meeting. We will call the meeting to order, and we will be led by Trustee Withrow in a pledge of the allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Madam President,
Clerk.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. And before we do our report out, we'd also like to thank and acknowledge our tenure staff for their celebration. So if you're still here, tenure staff, I know most of them are gone, but at least we're making public acknowledgement that we thank you and hope you had a jolly time out here. I did get to come out and say hi to a few staff, yes. And we are also going to move up on the agenda before we do readout, because we apologize for having taken so long. We have the Laney football team proclamation. Yes. And this is going to be done by, I believe, Congresswoman Barbara Lee's office staff. Yes, please come up. You could. Is Coach here?
He just wanted to get the students, the football players.
Oh, they went to go. Oh, good. Yeah.
Here they come. No, here they come. Where are the guys?
Coach, we think we want you front and center over here.
Okay. And I got two guys coming in.
Oh.
Thank you.
It's all about the students. That's right.
Testing, testing, testing.
And we can stand up.
Just congratulations one more time. Yes. I'm sorry. Oh, wait, can we hear from both of them? I mean, I'd like to just. Coach, can we hear from both the students? It'd be nice to just kind of hear what's going on with them, where are they going, what are next steps? At the
My name is AQ. I have another year at Laney, and I major in political science, and I just want to take that to a next university, hopefully a 4-year, along with my football scholarship, and I want to study something in the criminal justice law firm, like something like this. Yeah, so yeah, that's where my future holds. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Joel Alberti, and I'm majoring in kinesiology right now. So I can do sports medicine, stick around sports. And I want it to take me hopefully to the league, so I can be around others that experience football, sports.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll resume with our meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have a report out from closed session? Madam Vice President.
Yes. Okay. At tonight's closed session, the board voted to ratify the appointment of the following public employee contracts, which is subject to contractual agreement by the Chancellor. Student Services, Laney College, effective April 8th, 2019 through June 30th, 2021, at $128,395 annually, 7 ayes, 0 noes, 0 abstain. Extension of regular management contracts. Recommendation to extend Gary Albury as the Director of Student Activities and Campus Life, Laney College, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 at $117,230, 5 ayes, 2 noes with throw handy. Recommendation to extend Marie Amboy as the Director of Strong Workforce and CTE District Office, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 20th, 2020 at $128,394, 5 ayes, 2 noes. The rest of the twos will be with throw handy. Recommendation to extend Mary Beth Benvenuti as the Director of Business and Administrative Services, College of Alameda, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 at $145,142, 5 ayes, 2 noes. Recommendation to extend Marie Elaine Burns as the President, Merritt College, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2021 at $212,130, 5 ayes, 2 noes. Recommendations, so I think there were 7 ayes. Yeah.
Would you like to make a correction for the record?
I think it was 7 ayes.
Yeah, the president's contract.
Yeah, 7 ayes. Recommendation to extend Chuen Chan, Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, Liberal Arts, Laney College, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 at $145,142. 5 ayes, 2 noes. 7, recommendation to extend Lilia Chavez as the Dean of Special Programs and Grants, Merritt College, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 at $122,000 and 813. 5 ayes, 2 noes. Recommendation to extend Lisa Cook as the Dean of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, Berkeley City College, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 at $133,977. 5 ayes, 2 noes. Recommendation to extend Peter Crabtree as the Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, CTE, Laney College, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 at $145,142. 5 ayes, 2 noes. Recommendation to extend Francisco Gamez as the Dean of Math, Science, and Applied Technology, Berkeley City College, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 at $133,977. 5 ayes, 2 noes. Recommendation to extend Drew Gephardt as the International Services Manager, District Office, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 at $106,065. 5 ayes, 2 noes. Recommendation to extend Barbara Godoy, Dean of Enrollment Services, Berkeley City College, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 at $128,394. 5 ayes, 2 noes. Recommendation to extend LaSonia Hill, Manager of Special Projects, NAAEC, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 at $89,318. 5 ayes, 2 noes. Recommendation to extend Brenda Johnson, Dean of Disabled Programs and Services, DSPS, Berkeley City College, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 at $145,142. 5 ayes, 2 noes. And now Trustee Yuen is going to take over.
Wait, before, I want to clarify something.
Okay.
Yes.
Just clarification, Trustee Withrow and myself, our vote no is for the shortening of the term from 2 years to 1 year. It is not against the employees except for in one specific case and from mine. So it doesn't come across that way, but I just want to be real clear. It was not on extending the contracts. It was the shortened time. Thank you.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. I'll continue reading to help my colleague out here. Recommendation, so the board approved the following contracts, and these were all 1-year extensions on a 5-2 vote, 5 ayes, 2 noes. Deborah Jones, Associate Vice Chancellor of Workforce Development Continuing Ed in the district office at $167,472. Timothy Karras, College of Alameda President, and this was for a 2-year contract at $212,130. Recommendation to extend Herb Kitchen, Director of Student Activities and Campus Life at Merritt College at $111,647. Mildred Lewis, Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, Community Leadership and Civic Engagement at Laney College at $145,142. Anna McClanahan, Dean of Science and Technology, Engineering, Arts and Mathematics, or STEAM, at the College of Alameda at $133,977. Antoine Mehuli, Director of Network Services, District Office at $133,977. Royal Roberts, Risk and Safety Programs Manager at the District Office at $122,813. Shirley Slaughter, Business Administration Services Director at BCC at $145,142. Etheria Smith, Director of Facilities Planning and Development in the District Office at $122,813. Sean Taylor, Director of Gateway to College at Laney College at $111,647. Pamela Wallace, the Best Director, Best Center Director at Laney College at $122,813. And then the following were extensions of interim management contracts. Ruby Andrews, Interim Director of Human Resources in the District Office at 122-813. Royal Roberts, Interim Director of Employee Relations and Diversity Programs in the District Office, 156-307. Chanel Whitaker, Interim Vice Chancellor for Human Resources and Employee Relations, District Office at $200,966. And the board voted not to re-employ for 2018-2019 the following administrator with employee ID number 10828807, as well as employee ID number 10977814. And if there are any of these people who are here, we've extended their contracts, we'd love to welcome you back and thank you for your service. If you would like to stand and be acknowledged.
Thank you. That takes us to 3.5, approval of the agenda. We need a motion.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I just need to make one clarification. The non-renewals were on a vote of 7 aye and 0 noes, no abstentions, and no absences. So that was a unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you for clarifying. We have a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Discussion?
Madam President, could we please remove, I think it's under consent, and that's the 311 quarterly report, and I'm trying to figure out what number that is.
That would be 7.1.
7.1.
That we would move from consent to action.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I need a second. Second by Trustee Weinstein. Roll call, please.
Student Trustee Galan? Student Trustee Jordan?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
And this is moving it to action?
This is the approval of the agenda with moving 7.1 to action.
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries.
thank you. Item 3.6, approval of the minutes. May I have a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved. I need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Galan? Student Trustee Jordan?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries.
thank you. Moving on, item 3.7, Associated Student Government Reports. Please come up to the podium.
Let's try this again. Good evening, Chancellor's Office, Board of Trustees. So I'm Ramin, I'm representing Berkeley City College. So just to recap, student government elections have ended as of last week. There are 23 applicants as of now. They are running for office from Berkeley City College. Orientations have taken place Monday, Tuesday, and they will also be taking place tomorrow. Campaigning will start March 19th, and it will end on the 12th of April. Elections will be held April 16th and 17th. We will have a live voting, so people can vote. They are also aware that you can vote online. On Thursday, the AS will be attending a forum of collection. It's a forum on a collection of unpaid student fees. On the 14th at Laney from 12:15 to 1:30. Students will have the opportunity to ask questions and share concerns about how the Peralta District is planning to collect unpaid student fees. Also, this is Women's History Month, so just to recap on that, the Women's Leadership Club is holding a feminine hygiene product drive for the whole month of March. Donations will go to Youth Engagement Advocacy Housing, also known as YEAH, in the city of Berkeley, which is a shelter program for the youth. So far, we've collected about 6 boxes of feminine hygiene products. The drive will be promoted during 3 events that are being held for the month of March. March 13th is the screening of It's a Girl documentary. The 20th is Career Day with women's leaders at Berkeley City College. And we will end the celebrations with a packing party to pack all the feminine hygiene products we've collected on Wednesday, March 27th. Myself, I went up to Sacramento with UCRC Gabriel Martinez, and we also met with trustee member Nikki Gonzalez. We spoke with Rob Bonta from our district and spoke about the concerns that FACT does have and the student body as a whole. All 4 colleges were represented there. And also, I'd like to acknowledge our president that got acknowledged at Capitol Hill as one of the Women of the Year. Congratulations, President Rowena.
Thank you.
Good evening, trustees. I'm Dax Bott, representing LSLC. So every year, as part of our scholarship initiative to support students financially, ASLC rewards $10,000 worth of scholarship. And this year, we'll be adding a new scholarship in the name of Keith Welch. For those who don't know, Keith Welch was the previous ASLC president who dedicated his time at Laney to feeding the students and eradicating student hunger on campus. Keith passed away a couple weeks ago, and I'm proud to name the scholarship after him. Last ASLC meeting, we did a simple exercise. We asked each other, why are we here, and why are we student leaders? The common answer was to serve students, to advocate for cleaner and safer spaces, to support students through programs and initiatives like our scholarships and participation in the food bank and a food pantry, and through our participation in shared governance. And why I'm bringing that up today is the trustees approved a lot of positions or continued a lot of positions, and I guess I'm here to present that question to the new employees and the continuing employees. Why are you here, and are you here to serve the students? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Usually I get my jitters out before I do my report. I didn't do that today. So I'm sorry if I start laughing out of nowhere if I'm talking illiterate. First thing I want to say is good evening. I hope you guys are all having a good day so far. Hopefully it doesn't become a long one. Okay? Hopefully y'all get through this quickly. So one thing I do want to commend from our campus is one of our clubs, the Intertribal Student Union, which is all for our Native students, and they actually help our Native students on campus get registered with the state and the federal, so then they can get their funds and help from the state and federal if they have any, if they can show that they have a blood percentage and all that stuff. But they worked in collaboration with Mills College, and they found out that Mills College doesn't necessarily have too many Native books in their library for people to learn about Natives in their ethnic studies program. So they decided to have a drive, and they actually got 100 books that we put stickers on that says it was donated by us, and we're giving that to them next week or this week. I forgot what day. But it's 100 books that Mills College is now getting for their ethnic studies department that I'm proud to say Merritt College has given them too. Okay? Next thing, I showed you guys 2 weeks ago, the homeless kits that I brought. We have given away, I've personally given away 175 of them. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say because they don't want me to say too much more. But yeah, I've given away 175. And then the biggest thing that we're doing right now is preparing for Double S Tree SSCCC, GA, which is Student Senate for California Community Colleges General Assembly. That's where we go to formally vote on resolutions between all of our 114, now 15 because of the online college, resolutions in order to pass some of those resolutions into legislation. We actually have a bill right now that's AB 1504 for the 2 SRF. I'm just so happy about it. But yeah, that's the biggest thing that we're trying to do right now, because we're trying to make sure a lot of the bills and the resolution that have come up are bills that need to happen. So like, obviously our housing and food and insecurity. There's the works of overnight parking, which is already happening to be a bill. So this resolution will hopefully be added into that to help boost it up a little bit more for us to see if we can pass AB 302. But other than that, thank you. You guys have a good night. I'm gonna go home because I have a headache.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We will move to 3.8, classified Senate report.
First of all, I'd like to say good evening to everyone, to our chancellor, to our board trustees, our presidents, and all in attendance. My name is Glenn Pace. My current position at Laney College is that of a principal clerk out of the business office. My history here with Peralta Community College started over 20-something years ago. Well, I served as a deputy sheriff here for 16 years in the Peralta College District. I was stationed on every campus. My main working duty station was Laney College, so I have a good working knowledge of the district. Now I'm serving in two positions. I'm serving as interim president of the Classified Senate of Laney College and the interim president of the Peralta Classified Senate. And as you see, that's a lot of busyness to be doing. Also, I'd like to take this time also to introduce our officers and their locations throughout the district. My vice president is Terrence Fisher at Laney College. My treasurer is Jennifer Lenahan at Berkeley City College. Parliamentarian Roberta Gonzalez, Berkeley City College. And our secretary position right now is unfilled. One of our chief objectives is to achieve full participation in the Peralta Sheriff Governance by reestablishing a body of PCS senators with representatives from each of the 4 colleges and district academic center. To this extent, the PCS has made a motion to adopt a revised condition of bylaws documents that is expected to be approved in our upcoming March Senate meeting. Major revisions to the document provide clarity in our Senate purpose as well as our respective charges as senators and officers. Our goal is to empower ourselves as we do our jobs more effectively by enhancing the prospect of student success. Now, on that issue of student success, I think it is very important that the new to serve, that you do so with the knowledge that you're here to serve the students. I want to piggyback on that. Also, we have a major concern in the Peralta College Senate for our hourly workers who have lost jobs because of their contracts not being renegotiated. I think it's very important that you as a body get on top of this and look into it, because we have folks that are timing out in their positions, and because of whatever reason between 1021 and the district, their voices are not being heard. I take this time and I plead with you tonight to help our workers, our classified workers, because we are on the front line of student success. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our academic senate.
Good evening, President Bonilla and members of the trustees. And I'd like to extend a welcome to Dr. White. The faculty are happy to see you here. And we appreciate the fact that Dr. White knows us, and what I mean by knows us, knows Peralta and knows the students and the faculty and the classified here. She has a long history with us, and I want to remind people that she graduated from Merit when it was out on Grove Street, and that she came and worked with us, and she was a faculty member here, and I'm proud to say that she was a faculty senate president here. I don't know if it was at Laney or if it Merit. It was at Merit, and so you know, that really I think makes us as the Senate really happy to see her in this position, and that we have hopes of really working closely with her as we go through our processes here at Peralta. I wanted to briefly just touch a little bit, and I hope that we have a better opportunity later on with the Academic Senate, with the board, to engage in a dialogue on 10+1. Many people have heard the term 10+1 in academic and professional matters, but I don't know whether or not people understand where the roots of this come from. And I really want people to understand that when faculty grouse and say, you know, 10+1, 10+1, that it's not a slogan. It's grounded in Title V. It's grounded in Ed Code. It's grounded in our own board policies and our own administrative procedures. Everything initiates with AB 1725, which was John Vasconcellos' really excellent Reform Act of California Community Colleges back in 1988. And in that, and the subsequent laws and the subsequent Title V's that came out of that really established the what academic and professional matters means. And so for this board and for the administrators and classified and fellow faculty, it really specifies what do we mean by rely primarily upon. That all academic and professional matters that we have a interested in, we are the ones that the board, the chancellor, the presidents have to rely upon primarily. Okay, and what that means is consultation. It means collegial. We actually use this term in the language within our BPs and APs and in Title V, collegially. And what collegial means is that we are constantly engaged and interacting. And I think that when you look at those districts where that is happening, you really have districts that work very well with each other. And my hopes is that we could establish that here at Peralta. When we talk about rely upon, we're talking about a district only in extenuating, and I use the term extenuating because it's in the language, extenuating circumstances where the board or the president or the chancellors disagree with us, right? And in that exception, it has to be a written response back to the Academic Senate. And the reason why is if you know higher education, you know how deeply rooted the Senate, the Academic Senate, goes back in terms of back within the United States and then certainly back in California. This spring, in the second week of April, the state is celebrating its 50 years with the state Senate. And as I indicated previously, one of our own faculty members up in Merritt back in 1968, he basically began the process of bringing all of the faculty senates from throughout the state community colleges together to create this strong organization. So what I wanted to emphasize briefly today is that oftentimes people don't understand what we mean by 10+1. They don't understand that when we talk about primarily relied upon, what does that mean and what does that signify? It doesn't diminish other constituency groups, but what it does is strengthens the bond and the relationship that our board and our chancellor and our presidents have with faculty. So I hope that in the future we'll be able to bring a presentation to you to discuss this in more detail. But tonight I wanted to at least convey to you what it is that when the faculty are doing our activities, why we say academic and professional matters and why is it rooted in this 10+1. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. We will move to public communications.
I have two speakers if they'd like to come up. President Jennifer Shinofsky and Heather Cisneros.
Good evening. I'd like to start tonight by welcoming Interim Chancellor White to the team. The PFT is really looking forward to working with you over the next year. We're grateful for your intellect, your experience, your institutional memory, and also your calm demeanor and history within Peralta. She's also a PFT president in the past. I'd also like to, because you all weren't here for the reception, just sort of emphasize the 35 faculty members that received tenure tonight and publicly congratulate them again. Last year, more full-time faculty retired from this district than were hired. So while we grapple with the budget issues that are facing us all this year, I'd like to point out that we really can't allow those balancing the budget to be happening on the backs of our faculty ranks. We cannot be hiring part-time faculty to teach the classes within our district at a lower rate of pay for the same work without benefits and without job security. Full-time faculty have a number of responsibilities. They provide institutional memory to our institutions. You guys all know how much turnover we have in our administration. Faculty and staff are really the backbones of that institutional memory year after year. Faculty are primarily responsible for the accreditation work that we are all engaged with right now because of ACCJC's letter from late last year. Shared governance, of course, relies on faculty. And also faculty, we are the ones that are interacting with students, right? Every day when they come to class, when you ask students what their best memories of community colleges are, it's generally a faculty member that they interacted with, as Dr. Brown mentioned in, I believe it was you, right? Mentioned in your comments? Yes. So I just want to, and also, of course, sorry, full-time faculty are tenured. And the tenure process and the tenure that we granted to these 35 faculty members today is really important for the workings of our district and the workings of a vibrant educational system. Faculty with tenure are free to explore new ideas in both education and scholarship, but they're also able to have strong voices when they see things happening that don't seem right and are not actually supporting the colleges as we want them to support students. So thank you.
Thank you. Heather.
Good evening, folks. My name's Heather Cisneros. I'm from Laney College. I currently co-chair the curriculum committee at Laney College, but I am a CASH instructor. And if you are curious what CASH is, it's kinesiology, athletics, sport, fitness, and health ed. And we like to refer ourselves as CASH, which is always nice to remember, and it's always a great thing to have. So we always feel that you guys need us all the time. You always need CASH. So make sure you stop on by the fitness center at Laney College so you can get your cash on. So I'm here tonight to actually talk about a couple things. A couple weeks ago, I went to the board meeting that you folks had, and I just wanted to come to you guys and talk about a couple things that resonated with me, because week after week, we have meetings and meetings, and we start forgetting what happened when and where. And so I just wanted to take a moment to point that out, that these things do resonate with people. We hear what's being said, and so just wanted to reiterate that to you guys. So one of the things that I thought was very memorable for me when President Gilkerson was talking about what I'm calling the fire walkers that were walking around our campus, and they're checking out buildings for fire hazards. I really appreciated Trustee Reese having done some background work to look at previous contracts that were going on and coming to a meeting, having read stuff, coming prepared, ready for questions to get better clarification so we can be better informed. Meetings are all over the place in Peralta. We have them all the time. It's really hard to prepare for meetings and make really good, educated decisions on what we're doing. So I just appreciate the time that was spent in doing that. I also was appreciating one of the things on the curriculum committee that we find ourselves is you get caught up in all the weeds. We need a policy for this, and oh my gosh, this is spinning out of control. And then you got to take a step back and remember that we actually have some policies and rules and things in place. We just need to step back and actually look at them, remember them, and use them. So one of the things, I believe it was President Bonilla, you had mentioned that there should be or could be this statement that comes out to see what the progress is of all the projects that are coming through. We lose sight of those things often when we have so many things we need to take care of. So again, this is stepping back. What we already have in place is something we can be using so we can be better decision makers in all of those meetings that we have. So I think that's just kind of one of those things in curriculum. We are working to do that, and it seemed to me 2 weeks ago that was a step to kind of go, look guys, we will have the information to be better decision makers. So those are two items that resonated with me. I will say that I basically came because I knew that Jennifer was going to be doing her PowerPoint presentation on the state of facilities and being a cash person, fitness center, volleyball court, tennis courts. Sports do take up a little bit more space than some other places, and so I'm certainly interested. And so I wanted to see what some of those pictures were, and I helped her do some of the pictures. So I wanted to see what was going on there. So in light of that, I also appreciated the questions that came afterwards in having the understanding that some of the trustees had actually come to campuses and seen what was out there and are seeing what the needs are. So I did a little research, and I kind of had this in the back of my mind, but in a lot of the research that they show is that they found that students in newer buildings outperformed students in older ones and posted better records for health, attendance, and discipline. So we find that your best opportunity for retention, success rates, are in the building. You have a place where they want to be motivated to go to. They want to hang out and learn. They want to go to the library and just hang out. So we want to create those spaces. And I know I'm probably out of time here, but one piece in this research that actually I hadn't really thought about it is teacher motivation. It motivates the teachers also. Teachers want to hang out and stay. Yeah, my office hour might be over, but if a student is here and has questions and this is a great learning environment, I want to stay and help them. So if we can reframe what we're thinking about, you want retention, you want success rates, you want an enrollment management plan, I think it lies in the buildings. And that's where you could really take care of your students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This now moves us to the Chancellor's report.
Thank you, President Bonilla, and to the Board of Trustees, and to college presidents and colleagues from our faculty, classified, and other administrative staff. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. It feels a little bit like full circle from student to chancellor. I've served in interim capacities here and interim presidencies. I've led education master planning teams, and I think it feels very comfortable to be in this role. I accept the full responsibility of this role and appreciate a great core of faculty and staff and the board that are assisting and helping in turning the ship around. And I believe it's going to get done in this year. There will be times when the recommendations and proposals coming to you may seem, well, they're not always very comfortable, but we are dealing with a financial crisis here. There are people on the ground here from the Collaborative Brain Trust, from FICMAC that are here helping us. The participatory governance groups are working very hard and very diligently with staff to come up with recommendations that can be presented to the board to help improve the financial conditions of the college. So with that, I'll thank you for this opportunity, and I want to acknowledge President Rowena and congratulate you, President Tomanong, in being recognized by Assemblyman Wicks as the Assembly District 15 Woman of the Year. That's quite an accomplishment. Congratulations. And also to President Gilkerson and to Coach John Beam, congratulations to the champion Laney College football team. So we have a couple of reports, quick reports tonight, just to keep you up to date and in the loop. And we're going to start with Dr. Siri Brown, Vice Chancellor Brown.
Good evening, trustees and colleagues and community. I'm happy to come here to give a very brief report on the status of the 5-year integrated financial plan. And we have posted for you to see the May 1st update that was sent to ACCJC, although even now that document has transformed because of the work is happening at a very quick and hard pace. So conceptually, we are developing the plan based off of existing plans so that we ensure that our 5-year financial plan is integrated from other plans, from our educational master plans, IT plans, et cetera. To that end, that meant that we are ensuring that all those plans are updated. We did an assessment, and all of them are updated except for the enrollment management plans at the college, as well as the district enrollment management plan. And the reason that we're updating those is so that they align with the student-centered funding formula. And then we also are working on the district information technology plan to integrate into the 5-year fiscal plan. And we have ensured that there's shared governance. Everyone is participating in this collective document. And we did that by combining 2 of our shared governance committees, as well as meeting more often. So we meet every 2 weeks, the PBC and the PGC. Those are the 2 committees that we've created a schedule where we spend 1.5 hours collectively looking at the progress of the 5-year integrated financial plan. So whether we're going through the document, asking people to read certain sections, and mostly we've been asking our shared governance constituents to look at content and structure because we hadn't gotten to the point of fine-tuning, the writing of the report. I do want to acknowledge that we put out a call to faculty. We have so many skilled and talented faculty to assist us as accreditation coordinator. And Dr. May Chen, who has a broad and deep history with not only accreditation, but also with institutional research. She joined us on this team, and she's been phenomenal to work with and very knowledgeable. And we have been working very hard. When I say we, I do mean literally collectively. Each of us writing certain sections, her gathering documents, us assisting gathering documents, the faculty and classified giving feedback and comment, us responding to that. So it's very much a collective document. And we are, of course, addressing all of the issues that ACCJC noted as areas of concern, as well as we're making sure that the document is our own document. So there'll be other information in the plan that is that's pertinent to us. We want to ensure that we're not just responding, but it is actually a 5-year integrated financial plan. So we did submit the May 1st update on time. The presidents did that, and they helped with the language of that as well. And we're very happy to have the Collaborative Brain Trust with us. They just started this week, and we sent them the draft and asked them to prioritize taking a look at the draft, and again, to pay attention to structure and content. We've made a lot of progress in the last 2 weeks, and so it's really starting to take shape and reading nicely, and lots of good data and references. And so we'll look forward to their input so that we can respond to that and dialogue with them about that, as well as we dialogue with the shared governance about CBT's input. And then, of course, we look forward to the board reading the document and hopefully accepting and approving the final document. And that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll open up for questions as soon as we get the lights back on. Thank you. Thank you for the update. And this was a March 1st progress report that was submitted to ACCJC.
Oh, I apologize. I kept saying May 1st. May 1st is really in my head these days.
It is. I understand.
That is due,
That
right?
is due.
Right. Yeah, I apologize. To clear up for the community,
Yeah,
the
no,
March
that's-
1st update, May 1st final report due.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and open it up for discussion or questions. Trustee Reese?
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Brown. So the question that I have is there and when might we be able to actually see the work in process and not necessarily the draft at the end, so that we could have a study session and actually talk about that rather than seeing it at the end right before it's about to be submitted?
Yes. We actually have planned that early on, and if our initial schedule and timeline included a tentative read. And then we talked with CBT and Interim Chancellor Dr. White today about that, about submitting what we have by March 21st for the April, correct me if I'm wrong, but right, March 26th for the April 9th, so that you all can take a look at it in its form, knowing that it's still in draft form. And then that way we can get your feedback and we can adjust accordingly and take that back to shared governance as well.
Thank you. Any other questions?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, did you? No, okay.
Thank you very much. Since you're already up there, could you introduce Marie?
Oh, I'd be happy to. Marie Amboy is our Director of Strong Workforce and Career Education, and I'm not exaggerating to say that she is phenomenal, hardworking, dedicated, very knowledgeable, and has been doing great work around, from a district perspective, helping the colleges spend down their money, be on top of where they're at in terms of the revenue, the reporting for Strong Workforce. There's a lot of work that goes into it that faculty put into, and as well as working on partnerships and other great work. So she's here tonight to present to you an update on Strong Workforce, where we're at and where we're headed, and present to you all of the exceptional work that faculty have been doing in this area.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Brown and Chancellor White. Hello, good evening, trustees, colleagues, and members of the community. Let me figure out how I switch this here so I can go over. Oh, okay. Perfect, thank you. Just turn off the... Thank you. So just a quick overview, just to sort of provide some context with the Strong Workforce Program before I go into updates. The Strong Workforce Program is an annual ongoing investment of $248 million. The goal, of course, is to develop more and better CTE programs, the more being the increasing the number of students and the better being the quality of the programs and the meeting of our outcomes. It is intended to lift low-wage workers into living wage jobs. So we do look at a labor market. The labor market outcomes are a big piece of the data that we look at. It focuses on innovation and data-driven outcomes. It builds upon existing regional partnerships and encourages collaboration, and our funding is incentivized, which means that it is dependent upon whether or not we're able to meet our metrics. I think that most importantly sort of demands that we ask this question of ourselves in our CE programs. Did we make a positive impact on our students' lives? Because the metrics are not, they go beyond graduation. The metrics are whether or not they are attaining a livable wage job, or they're attaining, if they are able to increase their wages, if they are able to obtain a job in their field of study. So really the question we're constantly asking is, are they better off? And if they're not, what can we do to improve our programs so that they are? Because for many, as we know, CTE programs are, for many of our students, are the path out of poverty. Longitudinal studies have shown that degrees in CTE programs specific sometimes can garner up to double in terms of wages than the general ed counterpart. So for the way our funding is sort of split up, there are allocations. There's a 40% that's set aside specifically for regional projects. So there is a high emphasis on ensuring that we are collaborating with partners, both other educational partners, CBOs, and industry. How that's determined is in the very first year, it was based on labor market outcomes, so unemployment rate, projected job outcomes, and then enrollment, or CTE FTS. After that first year, so every subsequent year, 1/6 or 17% of our funding is dependent on whether or not we've met our intended outcomes, our intended metrics. And then these have been revised. So our strong workforce metrics beginning in 1920, so this July 1st, they'll have been revised to align to the student success metrics. This is important because then this means that CE faculty who are looking to sort of meet our strong workforce metrics already are also, because they are aligned, thus therefore meeting the metrics of the student success funding formula. And so these are the areas I'm going to go over very quickly, and pointing out specifically the changes and how they're aligned. So for progress, I will note there are two specific metrics that are now being removed starting July 1st. That's course enrollments and employment. Employment is still critical, obviously, but that particular metric was removed because it wasn't necessarily aligned, and I'll explain that in a future slide. So for progress, this has been moved to align, so from 12 units, now 9 plus CTE units. Again, that sort of matches, so the focus then is 9 units. No change to the points awarded. To sort of elevate the bachelor's degree and journey status apprenticeship, that's been moved to so that they can receive 4 points, and that's sort of shifted the thinking in terms of how they want to, when they're looking at curriculum development partnership, because it's been elevated in this way. So, and then the removal of the local credit certificates of at least 6 units, and then that's, I'm assuming because this has been moved to 9 units, it just makes sense that everything begin at 9 plus CTE units. For transfer, they have increased the value of this from 1 point to 2 points per student that transfers. That's really important for us. In looking at many of our CE programs, moving them from AA to maybe an AAT, looking in that direction. And then job related to field of study, the points system for that has not shifted. It's what's changed is who they're measuring. They're no longer measuring just completers and skill builders. They're actually going to be measuring all CE students that did not transfer. This is actually critical for us because what we're finding is that many of our students do not complete because they obtain a job. And so if they don't fit under that category of either completer or skills builder, we are not able to capture them. This actually allows us to do that, particularly if they're able to obtain a job in their field of study. The earnings, that actually hasn't changed. What's shifted here is the way is the definition. Instead of looking at a snapshot of their earnings at one particular time, they're actually going to be looking at the median annual earnings beginning in the first quarter. So they'll take the average of the earnings over a year. That'll be how the earnings metric is defined. And then the earnings gain, they'll actually be looking at, they're just sort of redefining how the points with which they review. Instead of the year before versus the year they exit, they'll be looking at the second quarter before they even enroll at a community college, or so before they even come here, the second quarter prior to that, and then comparing it to the second quarter after they exit. And then living wage attainment, this one actually is weighted again heavier. I think there's a larger emphasis, as there should be, on equity and access and closing that gap. So the living wage attainment has been redefined, not so that it's not micro-region level, it's now county level for Alameda County, and of course this is arguable. The regional living wage for Alameda County is approximately $46,000. That's the threshold. And it's 2 points awarded now instead of 1, so that's doubled. What I think is even more important in terms of this shift starting July 1st is that economically disadvantaged students are now weighted 100% more. The original metric called for 50% more. So a student, the living wage attainment, for example, a student who earned the living wage who happened to be economically disadvantaged would now earn, could actually bring in at least 4 points. That would be 4 points under that metric if it was a student who was considered economically disadvantaged under the original Perkins definition. So what does this mean in terms of dollars? So if we look at how this has impacted our strong workforce dollars, in round 1, of course, there were no real metrics that we were meeting yet. So it was just labor market and enrollment. And if you can see, there's at 0, when you look at the difference between round 1 and round 2, our incentive metrics allowed us, our incentive fund was added an additional almost $500,000, almost $500,000 from round 1 to round 2 in our incentives. And then as you can see from round 2 to round 3, our base funding may have decreased, which means that could have been, job openings in the region might have impacted those, our base, but our incentive actually had increased by an additional $300,000 because we met the metrics. So that's the focus on making sure that we're sort of keeping an eye on our metrics and meeting them is really critical in terms of our funding. So what does that look like breakdown-wise? If you recall, the local allocations are go right back to the colleges minus the 4% indirect. And that's determined by CTE-FTES. That changes actually annually, so it may shift by 1% or 2%, depending on the CTE-FTES at the college. The visual, so you see the numbers there, and then that's just the visual if you want to look at the pie, how it's broken up. For regional, there is no indirect cost for regional funds. The direct cost is essentially my budget here at the district, and that's approved by the district CE committee, and includes actually several initiatives that the 4 colleges collectively have decided are important that need to be sort of centralized. And that's how the remainder then is split up per CTE-FTES back to the colleges. So that's the visual. In terms of our timeline, just a reminder, we have just completed December 31st, 2018 is where our round 1 has officially closed out. We're currently in round 2 and finishing up the planning for round 3. I'm actually incredibly proud to say that we, with first in, first out model, we actually met all of our expenditure requirements and fully expended out round 1 by the required deadline of December 31st, which is was not actually an easy thing to do, but I'm excited that we were able to do it in a timely manner. These are just sort of a few of the investments that were made, sort of I think the most important ones over the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years. The majority of it really was going into curriculum development, leading to new CE courses, including non-credit certificates and programs, marketing materials, and targeted outreach efforts, including CTE Open House. new equipment and software, which will allow our programs to currently meet industry standards, instructional assistance to support student success in the classroom, additional wraparound support, professional development for our CE faculty, including allowing many of them to participate in regional conferences where they hadn't had an opportunity to before. And then there's funding for the infrastructure components, which is classified staff to support the CE programs, and additional support for CE research and data. That, as a reminder of the STARS, which I did sort of had the opportunity to present to you last fall. From 2017 to 2018, we saw an increase in our Strong Workforce STARS. And STARS, if you remember, are programs that meet any one of these three criteria. They've either shown a substantial increase in earnings, that their students have shown a substantial increase in earnings, that their students have attained the regional living wage, or a large percentage have been placed in a job in their field of study. Meeting one of these criteria is a Bronze Star, 2 is a Silver Star, 3 is a Gold Star. In 2017, we had 10 Bronze Star programs. Last year, I'm really proud to say that we had over 22 Bronze Stars and 7 Silver Star programs. And we're excited to see what will come from this year. So I would be remiss if I didn't share some of the barriers and challenges that many of my faculty colleagues share with me regularly and that they face. The first one, so you know, there actually is a long list. I've picked the top 3 that I think may have an impact on most, but that may impact college-wide, district-wide. But I think for CE faculty, these 3 things impact CE programs at a much higher degree than any other academic program, and that's one of them is the loss of hourly instructional assistants. For programs that mandate a specific teacher-to-student ratio, like nursing, like EMT, this impacts their ability to be able to complete offer the program in a manner that complies with their standards. And then for many of our programs, that it's really a matter of health and safety in terms of being able to ensure that they're able to complete the instruction in a safe manner. Many of our programs, like machine tech, welding, et cetera, hands-on programs, they have really felt this loss in the classroom. The lengthy process for purchasing and payment of invoices, because if you saw those funds that were expended out, if you can imagine, there's a lot of purchasing that goes through these programs, and the lengthy process that we have to go through has really impacted their ability to do this in a way that allows them to provide instruction and improve or grow their program. So it really, in some ways, impedes their ability to be innovative because there's a lot of chasing down of these pieces. And then I think the last one that reigns heavy is really the maintenance of equipment and facilities. This is particularly important for CE programs where equipment in particular, if something doesn't work, it's not a matter of whether or not they can hold the class. They simply cannot hold the class for many of our programs that have hands-on, that require hands-on technology or hands-on equipment. If that equipment is not maintained or they don't have the facilities to adequately teach, the classes simply are not held. And so there are many of them that impact. I know that this is something that's been going on or that impacts district-wide. I did want to make sure that I emphasize it because it impacts our CE programs in particular at a much higher degree. Moving forward, though, we are looking at a lot of innovation and partnerships. There actually is a lot of innovation and partnerships that are currently going on. I just wanted to focus on just a few. I'd be happy to come back and share with you comprehensively. Strong Workforce K-12 has $150 million annually to strengthen career pathways. There are regional joint ventures that are coming, that many of our colleges have participated in. These are partnerships across across the colleges, and then partnering with other colleges across the state and across our region. These are just a few: the supply chain operations, the SCOPE project, Next Gen Auto Tech, Teacher Prep Pipeline, Cyber Patriots, where several of our colleges, at least 2 of our colleges, participate in each one of these programs. And then industry partnerships, there's many. The one I just wanted to sort of bring to your attention is the Superior Court of California partnership that will be coming. We'll be launching this. It's a partnership where we'll actually be developing a training program for their members to allow them to, it'll actually bypass their exam, the exam that's needed for their particular, for that particular position. And it's for 2 specific classifications, or 3, legal processing aid 1 and 2, and then court clerk. I'd be happy to share that in greater detail at a later time, because I know I'm short on time. This is just something that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and then we get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see if there's any questions. Thank you so much for that presentation. Do we have any questions? Trustee Brown.
Thank you very much. I always enjoy your presentations. They're always really, they always get to the heart of really trying to, basically the open access institution and the war on poverty and sustainable careers, and all that stuff is always wrapped up in your presentations. And I had a question about page 10 and page 17 of the PowerPoint presentation. And I just wanted to make sure I understood that the new revised metric is looking at part of the success for CTE is the transfer to the 4-year institution.
I'm sorry, page 10?
10, it's slide 10.
Yes.
Sorry.
My apologies. Could you ask your question
Oh,
again?
slide 10, I was just, the revised metric and calculation mentions transfer to a 4-year institution, 12-unit threshold to be included.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to make sure that when we're hearing the metrics with respect to the outcomes.
Yes.
That I just want to be clear that that was the 4-year, the transfer to the 4-year institution was part of the metric that was being counted for the
Correct.
success for CTE. Because oftentimes we hear the criticism of CTE is that it's just training, it's not educating, yes. But when you need to have a job and you need to have a skill to have a job, it's training someone to do something, and then that person transferring to a 4-year degree with actually a career and a job that it has benefits and is sustainable is significant. That breaks the negative cycle. And then 17, I was trying to understand the strong workforce investments, because I've been trying to educate myself regarding the impact of 705 in terms of preparing students for coursework, and the some of the issues that are listed here on the investments are things that support students in their learning.
Right.
And I wanted to understand what nexus there was with regard to students that may not be college ready and helping them get college ready so they could get through their general ed plus their CTE courses.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about CE programs is a lot of the work that they've done in terms of college preparation, in terms of math and English, has been sort of contextualized. So there's a lot of contextualized math, contextualized English as part of their programs. But many of our CU programs are also part of the discussion around around the basic skills discussion, and looking at non-credit as an opportunity to sort of prepare, developing non-credit courses as an opportunity to sort of prepare students for CE programs. And there's not enough of it, but we certainly want to increase this. This is why I mentioned the Strong Workforce K-12 that's coming, because we've come to realize that I think the K-12's understanding of career pathways is somewhat not necessarily the same as our understanding of career pathways. Many times there's this feeling that our CE, CT, traditional CE programs are not part of that thinking. And so with Strong Workforce K-12 coming, we're hoping that that will shift and that will allow us to develop a lot more sort of dual enrollment courses within the K-12 to help with that preparation. Does that?
That does. I'm still a little bit wondering about the investments and then the need. There's a needs list that seems to overlap the investments list, barriers and challenges.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just trying to figure out how to reconcile 19 and 17. Those are the slide numbers.
Yeah. Oh, sure. So it was a question just that a lot of the investments that we're making are also, we're sort of reflected in our own barriers and challenges. Right. Right. There's this overwhelming feeling that these things exist and that because CE now has sort of their own pot of money, that they can sort of fill the gap where they can. But the truth of the matter is that those things are much larger than the pot of money that we have. And so while faculty are doing the best that they can to get student support and to be able to get the equipment and get this, the truth is that that's actually, it's a systemic issue that goes beyond them. So simply getting a brand new piece of equipment that will be able, that now meets industry standards, for example, makes no difference if we can't actually hook it up and make sure that it complies with the actual classroom. So we've, with the funds that are given to CE programs, in many ways they're trying to sort of work around that. But the truth is, it's some of the issues are actually much bigger than our own little pot will allow us to fill. But that is certainly the feeling, is that we recognize those barriers, so we're trying our best to fill them where we can, but they are much bigger than our little pot. Thank you.
Other questions?
I think all three of them.
Oh, okay. So we'll go with Trustee Gonzalez.
Thank you for the presentation. I want to focus on just on a couple things. The points that we get for helping students get into journey status in unions, what do we do there to actually make that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, apprenticeships are this sort of large, it's sort of a buzzword in CE. And there's a lot of, what's coming is a lot of funding that's going to sort of help support this development of apprenticeships. Part of the challenges that we've seen is that I've seen, I went to a conference just last week that was sort of hosted by the Department of Labor, is that the feeling on apprenticeships, the definition of apprenticeships seems to vary slightly than sort of the than Department of Education's thinking on apprenticeships. There's this sort of disconnect or conflict, if you will. And so what we've been finding is, especially in non-traditional apprenticeship roles that we're looking to sort of grow, this has been a huge barrier, particularly where labor and union comes into play. So we've tried to make inroads, especially with faculty that already have some of those partnerships, but we have not yet been able to sort of solidify it. That's with this new, I think with the new metric and sort of elevating that, giving it 4 points, I think that will actually sort of reshift our thinking on focusing on developing apprenticeships a lot more than we had in the past, just because of the amount of time it's taken to actually get one going.
I want to suggest an approach, and it's sort of a long-term seeding approach as opposed to like, oh, this is going to fix things overnight.
Sure.
But, I think we've got this model of education that says, if you study hard, if you pass your classes, you do well, you transfer, then the American dream will be right there for you, right? And all you have to do is look at the ranks of our part-time faculty members, and that's just not true. People study hard, they get advanced degrees, and then they end up in jobs where they're struggling. And one of the things that we understand is that if people belong to labor unions, if they have labor union representation, they make more money. Now that's as much of a political calculation as it is, a career technical calculation. And so it's that a critical component of the educational offerings that we should be doing in this area have to do with educating students on the importance, the value, the successes of the labor movement. and why it is that it's important to support labor unions in their workplaces and then try to find jobs that are labor union jobs. So that's one thought, and then a sort of a broader thought here. And again, you know, I'm just sort of thinking outside of the box in terms of how do you seed the field, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these changes that we're looking at in terms of raising people's wages are political changes. If you just go back to 2012, and the minimum wage in the state of California in 2012 was $8 an hour. It was students at De Anza College, where I teach, in San Jose State, who kicked off the minimum wage movement in the city of San Jose, bringing their minimum wage to the ballot box and raising the minimum wage by $2 an hour. We're now, you know, pushing out to 15. It was that same student movement working out at Berkeley City College and Laney College that pushed the minimum wage increases in Oakland and Berkeley. And so it just strikes me that there's some things that we can be doing as we engage faculty members to think, what is it that we need to be doing to help students be successful more than just studying and being successful in that traditional way. So I'll just leave those thoughts out there, and maybe they'll sprout somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez. Trustee Weinstein?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Thank you for this presentation. It's very exciting and really enjoy learning about these programs. You know, I've looked at the pictures online, particularly in the carpentry program, which to me seems like a fantastic program. And I wonder two things. One is, do you find that in the programs that are, I don't know if you would still say atypical for women, but are you finding more women participating in these programs? Because it looks like there are.
Yeah, so actually that's part of sort of the goal with Strong Workforce and even with Perkins is to really look outside of the sort of traditional. So in programs that are, you know, sort of traditionally female, there is a sort of a concerted effort to make sure that we're outreaching to male. And vice versa, of course, programs that are traditionally, or occupations that are traditionally male, making sure that we're increasing our outreach so that it diversifies in that way as well. So that's intentional.
Great, thank you so much. And the second thing is, also looking at the carpentry program and some of the others, it seems to me that in some ways you're taking leadership in some of these programs. And I'm just wondering if there's some way to have an impact actually on the county or on the state. When I think of the awards that, for instance, carpentry has won, and I'm sure other programs have won too, I'm just wondering if there's some way to have an impact on industry and regional development in what you have developed already and other programs maybe have not.
I think that's a great question, and I think that there actually are efforts right now, particularly with carpentry and welding, in partnerships with the county, sort of the Tiny House Project, a couple of, and industry.
Right.
The chair, I think the faculty probably know best or be able to best articulate a lot of what those partnerships look like. Many of them have been working with industry to actually help make sure that students are placed, which is part of why we lose, I would say, but part of why we lose a lot of our students, because many of our faculty in programs like carpentry that work closely with industry, their students that might be interning or externing or working closely get sort of snatched up and employed and then don't complete the program. So there is definitely a lot of those partnerships happening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Reese.
Thank you for this presentation. This is great to hear. It really was. But it also posed a lot of questions for me, and here are some of the questions that I have. So on page 14, or on slide 14 and 15, we talked about the percentage you divided the class or the colleges by the percentage of allocation. I'd like to, maybe at some point, if you could come back, I'd like to get a sense of the percentage of CTE, CE students within the full enrollment of each of the schools, to kind of understand more fully how much of each college CTE is occupying. But let me just go through my other questions if that's possible. Number two, success rates. would love presentations if you, and again, I'm new, so I may have already, you've probably already presented it, but would love to actually see the success rates of the different, and the certificate completions, and also the demographics. Would really love to see that portion of it, because you're talking to us in terms of the allocation, so clearly it's doing well and it's successful. But now, I'd love to see that translated into student success and not just the funding. The third relates to slide number 18, where you're talking about the STAR programs. It's an opportunity, it seems to me, to do a kind of analysis of the programs, where when we look at the CTE or CE programs, is there duplicity? Are some of the programs being taught at different schools? The 25 or 22 that you were talking about in terms of the increase between 2017 and 2018, is that one? What are those specific programs, so we can kind of get into the meat of what we should be celebrating, and what are some of the programs that are ailing, that are still in the colleges? And lastly, number 4, the 3 barriers that you articulated. So interesting to see those 3 threaded through almost 3 major problems threaded through almost everything that we've talked about. So again, it seems that these 3 are so critical to student success, student programs, academic and non-academic, and the success of the district. So thank you.
Thank you. Can I respond? I did want to share that I am in the process of, since we just ended round 1, I'm in the process of compiling sort of the narrative reports, working with the colleges to pull their narrative reports. This is a large effort, of course, but once we're able to do that, I would be happy to come back at a later time to share that report out with you. And the question around the CTE FTS, that percentage actually is the percentage of CTE students compared to the entire student population, if that answers your first question.
Any other questions? So I would also like to thank you, and it looks like you and I both attended the same conference last week, the California Federation of Labor. That conference in particular is one of the premier state workforce conferences that I will rearrange my schedule to attend. And it goes back specifically to Trustee Gonzalez-Schwinn, your question around labor management, partnership, organized labor. And this is the conference that weaves it together, where they take student worker-centered approach, industry-driven demands, and community-focused approach on how we're creating career technical education programs. If you look closely at your strong workforce bill, that bill was created in partnership with California Federation of Labor, your California Workforce Development Board. Tim Rainey, who is your executive director there, was actually in attendance at this conference. So there's a lot of high road partnerships, high road training initiatives. In addition to this, the construction component, I think that you were referencing, the state is also shaping and formulating how pre-apprenticeship construction programs are operating. And there is a multi-craft core curriculum that, if training programs in pre-apprenticeship and community college falls into the pre-apprenticeship category for construction training, if they are not aligned with the state's multi-craft core curriculum, you will lose out on funding opportunities. So you must be aligned. All of the SB1 funding, all of the AB11 funding, which are all career technical education workforce focused, are going to have that component in it. So I really appreciate this. I love that you went to the conference. Try to go to it as often as you can. I also just want to understand the funding timelines, because I think these are really important. The first year from 2 years from July 2016, looks like 18 months to December 2018. That looked like it was mainly focused on capacity building. And then we haven't seen the outcomes yet. So no, you did not miss outcomes. We're waiting as you're building out programs and testing them out. So we really are looking forward to next step, next round of updates, and looking to see how our CTE and CE students are performing. So much.
Thank you. happy to come back and share that with you guys at a later time. Thank you.
So this takes, yes.
Thank you. I'm pleased to let the board know that the Laney College Blue funds that we spoke about last week are complete as of today, and they are all working. And they have both voice and video. And we're working on Mary College at this point, and I will report on that as soon as they are done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor. We will now move to consent calendar. And do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Second. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Student Trustee Galan?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow? Yes. Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and move to our action item, and we'll take 7.1. And 7.1 was?
311. Yeah.
Pardon me?
311.
Yes. Yes, and that was removed by Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Okay.
Shall we talk about this?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So I'm looking at the 311 report, and I'm a little perplexed, and I did speak with Vice Chancellor, so I'm expecting her explanation, but I'd like to point out that what looks like an anomaly to me on the 311 report, the last two questions that are asked are, does the district have significant fiscal problems that must be addressed this year and next year? And the response on both of these is no. It's just intuitively a little perplexing that we're in the middle of significant financial challenges where we have asked the State Chancellor's Office for help. We are freezing budget positions. We've made significant cuts in some areas, and yet we're saying no. And so, Chancellor, if you could help us understand why we do not have significant fiscal problems. You know, we're going to be reporting to the State Chancellor's Office. On one hand, please come and help us. On the other hand, we're fine.
Well, we did this fiscal year freeze 4.5 million in vacancies, and that gave us a reprieve for us reaching the club. And some things happened with the Student Center funding formula, and it's going to be changing often. The state told us that if they're evolving because so many districts was going towards the cliff, so the whole harmless was extended for 2 years out. So, and they're doing 3-year average instead of just doing FTS like we did. We was projected on FTS, and we was in the process of borrowing. So that's put us at a higher average rate. So they're taking 3-year average instead of taking the flat all the way across like they did before when they first built the Student Center funding formula. And also, we have special admit. Dual enrollment has increased. They funding that at a higher rate. So that gave us significant more dollars. So as you see that the Student Center funding formula is ongoing, there is a conference this Friday, and they said they're proposing several changes to the Student Center funding formula because it's a formula, and they're going to be changing it a lot because a lot of districts might hit that cliff quicker. So it's flexibilities in the numbers right now. So I might report today something different on Student Center funding formula, and tomorrow it might be a whole different take on the funding formula. So just expect some changes coming down, and we're going to have to communicate often about what's going on with that funding formula.
Madam President, if I may continue. So I understand that externally we've gotten some help, which is great. But internally, we actually still have significant financial problems. We're taking steps to address those, but I think that that's actually I mean, just the plain language of it, does the district have significant fiscal problems that must be addressed? If we say no, that just doesn't make any intuitive sense to me, especially if, in fact, we are taking significant steps to address the fiscal problems.
Well, you have to quantify those problems. If you're talking about the state that we're like hitting a cliff, that cliff is projected 3 years out. It's not projected in this year or next fiscal year. So we are, due to ACCJC, looking at our fund balance, and as we speak through this report that we presented to ACCJC, you will see that our fund balance haven't took a deep dive as ACCJC suspected, because some of the annual financial reports, when I go back and look at the details, it was a misreporting to ACCJC, and we are correcting that in our finding reports, and all that is going to be communicated. So as the district has been having structural deficit, we have frozen position to address that currently. So if I respond, they're going to ask me what significant deficit that I'm facing this fiscal year or next fiscal year, and I'm not. And I spoke to the state about those questions, and we're not that far off. It's just the cliff is coming, but we need to address it now, but it's a couple years out.
So hold on one second. I know you have follow-up, but I got to give other trustees. So I have Trustee Brown in the queue.
Thank you. I had just a question regarding the ACCJC assessment regarding the ending fund balance and the work that we're doing now with Collaborative Brain Trust and FICMAT and the strategic planning with regard to declining enrollment, how we're going to address those issues. And as I understand it, the hold harmless is for 2 years, and the funding formula, there's still modifications that you mentioned, but as I understand it, FICMAT looks at I'd say the Ed Code as well, looks at the current fiscal year and the following 2 fiscal years. And is that and in terms of when you're certifying your budget, when you're submitting your budget and you're talking about what whether the budget is approved, and is that when you ask the state about that question, did they say that it's the current and the next 2 fiscal years with regard to budget approval?
Yeah, they clearly state it's this fiscal year. Are you having financial difficulty in this fiscal year and the next one? So that's 1920. And when we look at the projections, we're doing well as far as the stimulation and the funding formula. So I can't respond, yes, we having a crisis here right now. We're not.
So the information you got back from the state was this fiscal year, next fiscal year. And what we're doing internally is we're looking at the overall structure. We've had declining enrollment, and we're trying to figure out a number of things. One, through different methodologies, different approaches, how to engage our community more, because we still have a community that can benefit from the education. You know, you guys have heard me say this before, 18% have their degree. That means that there are a lot of people out there that could benefit, and why aren't they here? So there's an internal look to figure out how we structure ourselves and how we address a structural deficit. And that's the work that we're doing now with FICMAT's going to give us recommendations regarding our internal controls and our processes, but also ACCJC and Collaborative Brain Trust are going to be helping us with strategic planning. So there are actually 2 separate tracks. One is how do you specifically answer that question based upon the questions you ask the state in terms of the fiscal circumstances that we're in now, and it's this fiscal year, next fiscal year. And then the next issue is we've got to figure out how we're not serving the community, why we're not serving the community, and how we're going to do that under the funding formula in AB 705.
And another thing, as far as the old model we were allocated under, we would have been out the club in next fiscal year. But since the simulation came and the student center funding formula came in, we're doing well in areas like in equity and certain areas of the funding formula that we are in a good position. And for them to break it up the model at 70% during our base allocation and setting out special met far as our dual enrollment, it was a plus for the district overall. So help districts and look at the overall context of the funding formula. And it's about student success more than about the FTS.
Well, actually, from what I understand,
Yeah.
it's Peralta, it was San Diego, it was LACCD, it was the Big Five. We actually asked them to change it. They didn't just change it.
Right,
That
but
was advocacy.
Thank you for that. We also have Student Trustee Galan.
I'm a little confused because in February we had a study session, and I'm looking at the item that was handed out, and it says, it's dated February 5th, 2019, and it says at this time the district and its colleges are in need of a comprehensive, integrated approach to the above issues with the desired result of fiscal health and long-term stability. So have we already achieved fiscal health if on this paper today it says no this year, no next year, for does the district have significant fiscal problems that must be addressed?
That was talking about comprehensive strategic plan. And that's a 5-year plan. On the 5th year, we hit the cliff, and we have to address that cliff. And that's why we need a strategic plan, so we can always be planning towards looking at our budget in the future and making projections and making decisions based on where we are at the time. So at the time now, based on our projections, we're going to hit that cliff in 5 years. So we have to always have a comprehensive strategic plan.
So we're completely healthy right now?
We're in good health right now. Based on our projections, we're in good health, but there are things that we can do better.
Okay.
Trustee Weinstein.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I'm just looking at the 2017-18 cash that we have, which is excluding borrowed funds, and that's minus $5,027,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the projected is minus 10 million. And then if you go down, there's borrowed funds only, and then the total cash. And so it brings it up. So with the cash, which is from the total general fund, which is negative, how is that positive?
Well, that's cash flow. That's a cash flow analysis. We short funding at different times. So we have to borrow from other funds internally. And so we might borrow money from the measure, different bond measures, like Measure 12, the parcel tax or something, just for cash flow purposes. But overall, our budget, we true up, we have a fund balance, but at times we are low. So we have to borrow, and then we have to transfer the money back into those accounts.
I do understand what you said. So that is something that happens all the time, or is it something that you get concerned about?
Not right. If our fund balance drop at a certain point, then I'll be very concerned. If our fund balance is lower than what we have now to maintain our overall district, or something, a casualty happen or emergency happen, that we have enough funds available to respond to that emergency, that's where I get maybe nervous. But right now, we have enough cash on hand to cover the district right now. And if you look at it, it always happened. We get our property tax at different times. So we might have, at one time, we might get an inflow of money in December, and then in April, we get those property tax money, they true up. But the state, we get an allocation all the way across, so we have to live off our fund balance. And then when our fund balance get low, we have to tap into another one of our accounts to hold us over until we get another allocation of property tax.
Okay. I guess I have one last question. In the 311 reports that you've done, have there, or anybody really, has there been any time where people have said that there are, yes, at the bottom of that report, yes, there are concerns or problems?
Well, I haven't went back to look at Peralta reports from previous years, or at one time I projected yes, because when we were low, we was in crisis. There was a yes. When the state took that $6 million from us last year, that should have been a yes, because we had to make a decision as far as freezing position or do something, or we would have been in trouble.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Reese.
I know that you've heard from a lot of our board members here, but I would have to agree with most of them in terms of my my thoughts on this particular question, and that is that we are having financial problems, and maybe they have been worse, maybe we have interpreted them, or because of the hold harmless, because of the funding formula, it's gotten a bit better, but the reality of it, from any perspective that we've looked at, whether it's ACCJC, whether it's FICMET, whether it's the Chancellor's Office, we have problems. And so I've looked at quite a few CCFS 311Q reports from a variety of different community colleges, and many of them whose reports are actually in a better state than ours have answered, yes, we have significant problems, and they've explained it. And I think the reason why we are hung up on this is because we want to allow the Chancellor's Office to know that we know the situation that we're in. By not owning where we are and the direction we must go in order to make us more stable, I think we are potentially sending a message to the Chancellor's Office that either we don't know what we're doing, or we think things are not really as bad as they potentially may be, or that we are in denial. And there are a variety of different other possibilities too as well. I don't think answering yes to that puts us in a situation that's precarious, but I think answering no does not necessarily communicate to the Chancellor's Office our desire to do something about our current financial situation and the next 5 years or the next 3 years. But it might be good, and I didn't actually look at this until now, the other CCFS 311Q reports from many other colleges. But like I said, it might be good to just take a look at what they've written and how they articulated what their deficiencies are. Some of them are not very bad, but they're owning where they may be falling short.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Trustee Sudin-Galan. And this will probably be the last wrap-up.
Okay. So if we don't have any significant fiscal problems that must be addressed, although the service is being paid for, should we just tell FICMAT to go home? Like, why are they here?
Oh, you tell me, this is from a budget perspective. We do have internal control issues as far as financial findings and things like that. But when they're looking at this report, they're looking at it from a budget perspective. And if the state, when I call them, they don't feel that I have to put that information on this form. But if it's depending on who you talk to at the state. But I'll go back to the state and ask them, do they want us to put that we have FICMAC, we have internal issues of audit findings or those things, those significant, but that doesn't have to do with our fiscal health. Our overall fiscal health is okay, but those are internal control issues that we need to address. And long term, if we don't do something about our structural deficit that we might lead into as far as our funding, then that will be what they're expecting on this report. But I'll go back to the state and see if they want more detail.
B.C. Johnson, thank you for.
Thank you.
Thank you for stating that you would go back and ask that question again to clarify. Thank you so much. We will now we're moving into. We're done with this piece. We need a motion to approve 7.1. I have to cut conversation on this right now. So I think
I have a motion.
You have a motion, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to move to table this item, bring it back at a future meeting. And while I make that motion, I would like to actually ask the Chancellor's recommendation on this matter.
Chancellor?
I think given the questions and the concerns and the conversation around this, I noticed that this was an item that's come before you before, it looks like. Chancellor Laguerre approved or signed this document in February of 2019, so maybe you've talked about this before. But in any event, I think it's worthwhile to have Vice Chancellor Johnson's suggestion followed up on, and I agree with the motion to table it.
So I'd ask for a second.
We have a motion and a second to table the item. Roll call, please.
Since we have a motion and a second, can we have discussion?
Oh, yes.
What,
Actually,
if
I
any,
believe, point of order.
motion and second,
I
can we
believe
have
that
discussion?
a motion to table is not debatable.
I have a question. I'm not
Please,
introducing
please,
debate.
Yes, please ask your question. Thank you.
What, if any, impact would the district face if we table the report?
Long as the item went before the board for approval, then it's no problem. You could table it. I'll bring it back at a later date.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it sounds like we're within a good time frame, so roll call. Thank you. And this
Student
is-
trustee Galan?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
No.
Trustee Handy?
No.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese? Trustee Brown? Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We will now move to item 10.1, and this is, I lost my place. 10.1, consider approval of the employment agreement with Acting Chancellor Dr. Francis White. I am the presenter. There is an attachment, and I need a motion to approve.
Madam President, I move approval.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly motioned and seconded. Do we have discussion? Oh, so if we have no discussion. If we have no discussion, I'd just like to point out one, thank you, Dr. White, and we're happy to approve this. But I do want to make special note that on page 1 of the agreement, item number 4, goals and objectives, we have by April 30th of 2019, that the acting chancellor and the board shall mutually develop a set of goals and objectives for tenure of the acting chancellor, and that the acting chancellor shall report to the board on progress toward the mutually developed goals and objectives monthly, and at least twice during the interim or during the term of this agreement. The chancellor shall agendize agendize a time for the board to discuss the goals and objectives. And what I'd like to do at this time, if it pleases the board, is I'd like to create an ad hoc committee to develop and work very closely with the chancellor and bring these goals and objectives back to the full board. And if there's no objective, the ad hoc committee will consist of Trustee Withrow, myself, and Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen. And hearing no objectives, that committee will move forward. Thank you. So we need roll call.
Student trustee Galan?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Yes. Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Abella Reese? Trustee Brown? Yes. Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. I also, before we move on to 10.2, I would also like to establish another ad hoc committee. This one is of the utmost time sensitive. This ad hoc committee would be convened actually just for this week to review, to receive and review search firms for the permanent chancellor. I'd like to appoint Trustee Brown and Trustee Napolia Bella-Reese along with myself to conduct these interviews and bring this information back to the board as well. Thank you. We'll now move to item 10.2, consider ratification of change order number 2 for C. Overa and Company for $347,831.01 for the new Center for Liberal Arts, the College of Alameda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? I need a yes. Yes. Second, yes. Bella Reese, yes. Discussion. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Galan?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Yes. Trustee Napoli Bella-Reese? Trustee Brown? Yes. Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move into board reports. Trustee Withrow.
Pass.
Student Trustee Galan.
The end of the year is approaching, and I'm trying to finish projects I have on different campuses. I'd like to, there's a shower at Berkeley City College, and I like to work with Berkeley City College's president and student government so that shower can be available for homeless students. And also, I'd like to, again, all this is, I'm not sure if it's going to get done with all the time we have left, but I'd like to get like a washer set and a dryer set available on Laney's campus. So there's more stuff, but that's it.
Thank you. Trustee Handy.
In terms of events and things, I really don't have anything to report, but I do have something on my heart that I really need to say. Our student trustee left tonight because she's very, very frustrated with something that is happening too often. I'm asking trustees, faculty members to please stay out of student government. When you engage in pushing students to run for office and do things that represent the faculty issue, you take away the joy and the honor of a student actually achieving the office and sitting and learning from it. But it's happening on many campuses, and it's distressing, and it has got to stop. Let the students have their student life. Please, people, just stay in their lane. I mean, things have been very, very crazy since before the elections, but this part is getting so damaging that students are just starting to say, you know, I don't really want to participate in the student government. And I know that there are people who are watching this, and you know who you are. Please, let the students make their decisions. Don't have their general sessions taken up by faculty's agenda to get initiatives against the state chancellor. That is not fair to the students. The students have their own things that they should be bringing to their sessions. But when you try to identify who that student leader is going to be and you put that person in that place and then you fill their head up with your agenda, you are taking away the opportunity for students to come and learn how to be leaders. So please, let the students have their time, and let's do what we need to do to govern the rest of this. Thank you.
Trustee Brown.
Trustee report. I had the wonderful experience of attending the AMEND conference, and that's the African American Male Achievement Network. What it is really is the idea is you use African identity to promote academic success. And I went there because as a trustee and as a representative of a community that is predominantly Black and Brown and Southeast Asian, I represent the students that have the demographic distinction of needing the most support for retention and for success, graduation. And so it was an amazing experience. There were over 900,000 registrants to that conference, and I chose one of the seminars that was on AB 705 because that is something that is important to me. When dual enrollment, when that legislation came out, I made sure I knew what that was and made sure that I was able to become very well versed in that, because that also affects the community predominantly that I serve, because the schools in my area don't have the A to G requirements. The students are underrepresented in higher ed, et cetera. Same thing with 705. You remove the non-credit courses or the supplementary courses, and then it's difficult for people who aren't college ready to compete or to finish their courses. So I experienced this really interesting conversation where a member of the Academic Senate that teaches English at Compton College was talking about what the effect was. She said there weren't any practitioners at the table, which was disappointing with legislation, that you didn't have people at the table who actually were going to be working under the conditions and knowing how to communicate the skills that students need. But it made me realize that one of the things that will be coming up for us is actually how the overlap when you don't have the non-credit courses. Of course, I've experienced working with students and them getting an educational plan that has them 3 years before they get to their regular coursework, which is frustrating, and those students often drop out. But what it made me realize is that the teachers will now have classes where people have different levels of capability, and it's going to make it more difficult to conduct the class. So when I first became a trustee, I thought, okay, books are expensive, we should have open source textbook. And the Academic Senate president made that happen. So nobody else knows how to solve this, so I'm going to ask our Academic Senate. I'm going to ask if Peralta could come up with a way that we could actually make this work, because my community can help resolve the under-enrollment of Peralta. That's supposed to be why we're here. I mean, we hear a lot of we don't engage our community. We talk to ourselves. The people that come up to the podium are all us. We really could do better for ourselves if we talk to the people that we're here to serve. I think that there's a lot to be offered at Peralta, but we have to get out of our silos. And this whole community oftentimes is too insular. So what I would ask is that we work together to try and figure out how to solve that issue, because we have a mutual interest in survival. We are symbiotic, us and the community college. And so I think that that was the huge benefit of attending, besides the beautiful faces and the beautiful energy and seeing all these administrators and teachers and counselors and all these people committed to the success of these students, and the students feeling that love. That was amazing. And there was also a session on women's empowerment that was before, but I flew down in the morning and got back in time for another event, which was the Martin Luther King Freedom Center fundraiser, which was also inspiring. Room full of people committed to social justice. So it was not a whole lot of sleep last week, but it was pretty inspiring. And the other thing was that I was able to attend with Yamis Myers and with Aisha Jordan, our student trustee, and Jennifer Shanowski had organized with Rob Bonta's office the AB2 rollout. And that was great to be able to hear the discussion about free second-year community college. But again, the lens that we often look at when we say free is the tuition, but of course when you have one of the 5th most expensive environments to live in, free ain't free. When books are expensive, when you have students living in their car, when you have food insecurity, we have Board of Governors waivers that are going to handle the tuition, but the rest we really have to figure out how to handle. So we all know this. We all talk about this, but it just reaffirmed that really when you're dealing with the community college, we are the continuation of the poor people's movement, the war on poverty. It never stopped. So that's us. And I think what I would really like to see is a unity of purpose and a unity of focus. We can't look at one person or another and say, you're the problem. We all have to go out and link arms with our community, or the seats will continue to be empty and people will start feeling the impact. And the last thing we need is more stress on our budget because we're not serving people who are crying out to be served.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Trustee Napoli-Abella-Reese.
I have two things to say. On March 2, I attended the Kaiser Development Forum, which was very interesting, and it was great to actually see a group of many different types of people there talking about the different ways that they wanted to input into the development of Kaiser. I saw our students there, I saw some of our faculty members there, and Dr. Stephen Corlett was there facilitating, and he did a fabulous, fabulous job. So I am very glad to have been a part of that. Thank you for inviting us. But I do have a disheartening story to tell as it relates to that. And I called Jelena because I was crazed and had absolutely no idea how to deal with the situation. The forum is a beautiful area to have lectures, but it's odd because it's very difficult to get in and out of. And there was a woman who needed accommodations, and she happened to be in the middle of the forum, and she was panicked because she had to go to the bathroom. The people that were helping her had no idea where the bathroom was, and she was in the middle of the forum. How she even got there, I have no idea. And so I ran to the library and asked where the nearest bathroom was. And the person behind the counter had said that the nearest bathroom that's open would be the bathrooms in the library. But lo and behold, as we all know, because we've talked about this many a time, the elevators do not work in the Laney Library. And I was appalled because I didn't even know what to do. So I'm texting Jelena, I'm calling Jelena, and totally fortuitously, I walked outside and Amy Marshall was there, and I'd never met Amy Marshall, but I had heard of her. And she happened to be there. I don't think she even understood what I was saying because I was so panicked. I wanted to get to this woman. She took care of the situation in as quickly as was possible. But for me, the tale was, it is unacceptable for our bathrooms, for our elevators to not be working. That could have ended in a devastating way. It could have ended terribly. That's my number one. My number two is, you all know, as a board member, I sit from a variety of, I look through a variety of different lenses. I'm a faculty member through and through, and I've been a faculty member. I'm also on ACCJC. I'm also a senator. And one of the commitments that I had made, and I thank you so much, Donald, for articulating what you had articulated. One of the statements that I had made prior to getting onto the board was, it is going to be my commitment to ensure that as a board member, and hopefully we as a board, will uphold participatory governance, AB 1725, and the spirit of AB 1725 as it relates to the 10+1, but also with classified, with all of our different constituencies. And as you had said, and I will confirm because I've actually been a peer reviewer at many of those different colleges, some of the best districts are the districts where there is a collaboration, a communication, a consultation with faculty, with classified, with all the different, and students. Students are so important. And not just over the 10+1, we have purview over 10+1 as faculty, but in many of those districts that do very well, there's a consultation because the chancellor and because administration want that consultation. And the decisions, whether they line up with the consultation or they deviate from, the process is respected because there's a sense of importance and value in every single individual that is a part of the district. So thank you for articulating what you had articulated. Donald.
Thank you. Trustee Gonzalez-Schwinn.
Thank you very much. God, it's been so busy. And we're going to go back into closed session after this, so it's just going to be busy. In February, I was really pleased to participate in a Chinese New Year's Day parade in San Francisco with my colleague, to my right, and it was the delegation was 30 recently and locally elected Asian Pacific American electeds, and it was actually kind of an amazing thing to see the representation in our communities growing and representing. February 7 through 9, I had the honor of being at the California Campus Camp. Was 80 faculty and students and staff from 14 different community colleges across the state gathering together to figure out how do we raise up the community colleges? How do we, in particular, build community alliances out of our silos, in particular between faculty and staff and students. And so most of this conference is students. One of the most powerful components of that training was a panel where our Laney College delegation led a discussion on the student housing crisis. And I note that the Los Angeles Times is recently covering this issue. They I think it's in the last week, highlighted a study that was done among 40,000 students across 57 campuses in California. And you know, the numbers are just really shocking. So, you know, you're looking at 60% of students being housing insecure and fully 19% being homeless in the last year. And it's a shocking figure. Every time you hear it, and then when you see it validated time and time and time again, with my interns down at De Anza College, we've been surveying students. We did a survey of 500 students, and that exact number was replicated. So you're just seeing this as an incredible crisis. But what was hopeful is students trying to figure out, and faculty members trying to figure out, all right, what do we do? How do we organize to find solutions to this? And so a few weeks later, I was pleased to be out at the FAC conference in Sacramento, the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. Again, a really nice delegation from Berkeley City College came out. Thank you, President Tomaning, for helping that group get out there. And we met with the Bay Area Ledge delegation. Among the things that we brought up, and Trustee Brown, thank you for raising up the issue of that it's not just that AB2 isn't enough. It's not just the tuition. Among the bills that we were talking to our Ledge delegation was Levia's bill, Senate Bill 291, which begins to have financial aid look at the bigger picture, not just not just the tuition, but really look at the full cost of helping students succeed. If you haven't seen the article in the Los Angeles Times or in numerous other places, do check it out. It was a study done by the Hope Center. What I found was helpful was the student voices combined with faculty who could really communicate to our Ledge delegation. They don't necessarily really quite get it until they have students in the office sitting down with them, and then the last thing I'm going to say is that, there's this push to get students out in 2 years, every single person from the Berkeley City College delegation that came with us to do these visits, this is the best and the brightest, the smartest, the most driven, talented students. Not one of the 5 or 6 students that was in that delegation was going to get through in 2 years. It was just like, nah, that is so not possible. We're designing legislation that actually punishes students. They load up on units and then they crash. It's just, we need to get our legislators really understanding much better the real lives of students, and then of faculty members trying to make the difference, and of course administrators and staff trying to do that. But it was a hopeful gathering, and I'll close with that. Thank you very much. Oh, last thing. Chancellor White, welcome to the district. I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. And I personally am really grateful that you've taken on the heavy lift here. Thank you.
Trustee Weinstein.
Yes, I had the opportunity to go to a committee meeting or a task force meeting with the Undocumented Community Resource Committee at Berkeley City College. And in the spring at some point, we will be doing another fundraiser, both for scholarships as well as for the UCRC. And the scholarships are for all of Peralta, not just BCC. So I'm happy to be working on that, and I know that I'll be working also with Trustee Ewan and the students as well. And tomorrow I'll be joining the Oakland Promise report. I guess this is their third year, I think. And I'll be representing Peralta at the advisory board. So I look forward to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also like to welcome Dr. Frances White to Peralta. And with that, we will move back into closed session. So thank you, everyone.
Shall I finish? Or?
We're not done.